Ladies and gentlemen, this is Urex and this is The Emperor of Man, The Rise of Humanity, Warhammer 40,000 Lore/History, Part 3 I guess, from me. Yeah, it's still continuing video by the channel Lutin09. I guess we saw all the 4 chapters: Ancient History, Age of Terra, the Golden and Dark Age of Technology, and now we are going to chapter 5, the Age of Strife. I don't know what the Age of Strife is, but yeah, that's the whole point of me reacting to this video. I really want to go deep into this. I was constantly saying that there are 2 parts of this, but apparently I'm fucking wrong, because Lutin just released 4th part of this massive series, The Emperor of Man videos. So it's not just 2. Now it's 4, and all of them are 1.5 hours long. Holy shit, how much, lore this Warhammer has. That's just going for hours and hours long. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe. Check out the reaction day, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast playlist like Warhammer 40k playlist with all my Warhammer 40k reactions in it. Internet Historian, John Throne, History, Khazgazan Nutshell, and yeah, that's always fun.
As we learned in ancient Eldar lore, it was at this time that the Eldar out in the galaxy would fall into near total destruction.
Oh.
These would be dark days indeed, as the Eldar were almost wiped out in a cataclysmic annihilation as the Chaos God Slaanesh was born into existence from the horrifically depraved mire that Eldar society had fallen into.
Did he just say mire?
This was a disaster for the Eldar, nearly extinguishing their light from the universe completely, but it didn't do humanity any favours either. The near destruction of the Eldar and birth of Slaanesh only came to mark the end of the Age of Strife. What caused it prior to these events was the ever-expanding sea of psychic energy known as the Warp. For many millennia, this had been growing more and more powerful, fueled by the nightmarish depravity that was Eldar society. Around the end of Millennium 24 and the beginning of 25, mankind was still struggling to recover from the disastrous war against its Men of Iron and its far-reaching impact on the previously secure and strong human federation. With their galactic unity destroyed, as well as suffering from the inevitable wounds of war, material shortages, mass loss of life and destruction of infrastructure, we would now face a new problem. Warp travel was becoming increasingly difficult. The warp's instability caused in part...
Alright, first of all, hold up there. There's a timeline thing that I need to understand. Somebody comment down that first of all, the war between humanity and Men of Iron, right? Those AIs, basically that ruined the peak of humanity that they were. Basically that scared Eldar, Orcs and everybody. Nobody wanted to fight humans because they were that strong. But when did Eldar reach its peak? Did Eldar reach its peak, with humans? Or were they on their peak even before humans, but humans just became way too powerful for them to deal with, even with the power peak that Eldar reached? Or did the Eldar reach its peak, right, being a way advanced species, after humanity fell with the war? Like, the creation of Slaanesh and I guess, Men of Iron war with humanity. What is the time period difference between them? How many years has passed? Did Eldar reach its peak during that time? Or Eldars were at their peak way before even humanity? I don't know. I'm pretty sure lots of people told me that Eldars were advanced species before humans, I guess, even existed or something. So that to me tells that humans basically reach at a certain level that was even more powerful than the Eldars were. And Eldars were really powerful and reached its peak. That's how they destroyed themselves. Because they were so fucking, thriving that they went into the way of debauchery and shit and created Slaanesh. But even then, humans were way too powerful for them to deal with. Is that it? Yeah.
By the Eldar's depraved psychic society meant that many ships now would become lost and consumed by the warp as they were travelling through. This was not an issue for the Eldar themselves, as they used their webways to travel, which were outside of that warp space. For humanity, though, it would be a severe problem, and its impact would deal the fatal blow to an already fragile empire. The losses and damage caused by the war with the Men of Iron, combined with now being unable to travel across the warp to cross those great distances in the galaxy, would ultimately return humanity to a pre-Dark Age of technology state, where only sublight travel was possible. This was a disaster. Trade and support could no longer be conducted, as these journeys would now take generations to complete. Humanity was once again isolated as it had been millennia before. The warp storms and the isolation they would create would last for over 5,000 years, and their effect on human society across the galaxy was catastrophic. Some planets with a significantly advanced human colony would survive into the future if they had the means to defend and support themselves. It's important to understand that when a system is set up with no established backup, its collapse has an immediate and profound impact. This was the case with mankind's trade system. It had grown over time to enable many planets to survive solely on imports from other rich parts of the Human Federation. Without this infrastructure and no way to gain outside support, disaster was inevitable. Many would turn inwardly to the colony, consuming themselves from the inside out, first with barbaric civil war and later total anarchy, fighting over the scarce resources that remained.
That is such a good detail right there, because of course, why wouldn't that happen, right? Since Eldars were basically expanding the warp more and more, why would humans think that they might not have the access to the warp anytime soon? Why would they think that? And since the warp is there and you can interstellar travel like that, who gives a fuck about the locally grown, I guess, whatever resources? You can just basically, ship resources from some other planet. Who cares? It's working, right? They did not know the Slaanesh is coming. Basically fucked the access to the warp. So now the colonies and entire planets that rely on resources, they can't have that. So obviously that's gonna be a massive problem. Entire planets and societies are gonna kill themselves and consume themselves through riots and shit because there is not enough resources. Yeah, I mean, that's just fucked up. I didn't realize that before because no video actually talked about that. Like, humanity's fall, Slaanesh was a big part of it. Because obviously the fight with the AI was the main turning point. From there it just went downhill because that war was way too devastating. But maybe humans could have recovered, but they didn't because of the creation of Slaanesh and the fall of Eldar. Basically, it cut off their access to the warp in a way.
The final phase often led the significantly depleted population into a feudal system of warlords and barbarism. This chaos was repeated across the majority of human worlds in this period, even including Earth. At this time on Earth, large areas across the planet had become massive cities reaching for hundreds of miles, and having become adapted to a system where all activities were conducted by machines, Earth also now relied heavily on trade from colonized worlds to support the extremely high population count. Additionally, much of the planet was no longer capable of food production and hadn't been for millennia, hence the need for colonies and expansion in the first place. With the inability to travel and trade, Earth descended into a similar fate of the less advanced worlds. First panic and general disorder, then food riots, resource hoarding, and finally complete anarchy.
Where's the Emperor?
The tribal warlord system was all that remained of the few survivors left on Earth, brutal warriors who battled out across the deserts and hives of the remnants of civilization. This whole situation might sound unbelievable that society could collapse so quickly and to such a severe degree, but it's worth considering that in this time human society had built itself up to be so strong in belief of its own invincibility that they simply did not and could not have anticipated the severity of the warp storms or how they would debilitate the trade and support systems that they had been relying upon. Human history is littered with examples of sheer arrogance outweighing logic and reason, as well as blindly staring down dangerous facts in favour of belief in our own self-importance. The lack of...
I mean, is it arrogance though? Is it arrogance? Because there was no reason for humanity to think that access to the warp would be cut off. They can't predict creation of Slaanesh, right? And first of all, the strategy of relying upon other colonies and planets. I mean, when you are in interstellar, society, right? When you have civilizations spanning through multiple planets and stars, basically. I mean, this is just one of the aspects to it, right? This is more convenient way of doing things. But obviously, when something like, creation of Slaanesh cut off with the warp, every planet is isolated. You can't really predict that. It's easier to say, after that happens, like, oh, what a arrogant and stupid humanity. But no, it's a, you can't have a hindsight to see this. So I don't think it was much of arrogance there, right? Because if you just prepare yourself in your society, basically, by just try to see hindsight and try to predict things which could be disastrous and try to prevent that would cost way too much. If every single planet, every single society, right, just basically try to get local resources just so they don't have to rely upon somebody else, that would have been way too inefficient. It would have been a bigger problem than it was worth at the time, at least. I don't know, did that make sense? I don't know. I'm kind of, I've still hasn't slept yet, right? I was did the long drive for 8 hours. Then I was supposed to sleep, but I didn't, and yeah. I'm focused, I guess.
Planning when it comes to losing their infrastructure across human systems was an acute example of human arrogance. It would now seem as well that whatever had protected human psyches from demonic possession would now end. It's my speculation that, as previously stated, the Emperor was what provided this shielding, even though he was not known to humanity at this time, for he knew the power, importance and value of human psyches in the dark times that would lie ahead. Without this bubble of protection that had invisibly existed prior to this time, humanity's weak psyches would be consumed, possessed and go completely insane, causing chaos among isolated, colonized worlds. This period of complete anarchy would last for some 5,000 years, and during this time many colonies would forget their family out in the galaxy, as well as losing vast amounts of technology and knowledge.
I like how this is like feudal Japan, the Sengoku Jidai type of thing, a long civil war type of thing. That instead of 100 years, it lasted 5,000 years.
Only fragments of the glory of humanity would remain, preserved on the advanced worlds who were capable to survive this dark time. By the 28th millennium, almost all traces of civilization on Earth were gone. Instead, techno-barbarians battled one another over the scraps of...
Fuck that, back up a bit there. What?
Vast amounts of technology and knowledge. Only fragments of the glory of humanity would remain, preserved on the advanced worlds who were capable to survive this dark time. By the 28th millennium, almost all traces of civilization on Earth were gone. Instead, techno-barbarians battled one another over the scraps of the ancient human race.
No fucking
Mars,
way.
however, was one of the few worlds to undergo a different process.
No way, that's how bad it gotten? They literally went Mad Max style? I mean, that many people died and the civilization died at that level that, it's literally like, a post-apocalyptic scenario now. People are battling for even scraps. That's how bad it gotten. What was Emperor doing, man? Why didn't he step in sooner? I mean, did he wanted this result so I guess humanity can rise from the ashes stronger or something like that?
After a brief period of anarchy, the tech priests of the cult Mechanicus emerged victorious over the Psyker mutants and then unified their homeworld. The priests visited Earth, but upon seeing its barren destruction, wrote it off as unsalvageable. They used any titans they had to help them in the future reunification of man. They would also be one of the few worlds to reach out and recolonize planets in this time. Using their knowledge of the warp, they chose moments of calm amid the storms of the time in the warp to travel through and establish new Forge worlds. These were replicas of the tech homeworld of Mars and enabled them to continue support and recovery of the technology of man,
Extremely
as well
important.
as production of munitions and simpler war machines. But for humanity,
That is such a fucking important thing. First of all, every time I play a video game that has this kind of a resource element to it, like even Assassin's Creed 3 had that, right? I mean, you can build a trade system and shit. Fallout 4 has your settlement system, right? So first thing, if I'm trying to build myself, build my society and power, first thing I do is focus on, building stuff, right? Expanding and, resource creating stuff like, Forge worlds. These are fucking important because if you can make something, right? If you can make something in your multiple Forge worlds, you have a really good chance of survival. Because, I guess making something, really good like equipments, weapons, war machines, if you have multiple Forge world, you can supply that in different front. That is so fucking important.
its golden age was over. This dark age of technology had fallen apart catastrophically. Many of the weapons that once served mankind brought us to near destruction and turned lush garden worlds into irradiated deserts. Mechanical factory worlds into dystopian nightmares, beautifully advanced and artistic colonies turned into barbaric, nightmarish hells devoid of all morality. The age of strife was upon mankind, and only the further darkness of the future lay ahead. Roughly 5,000 years later, around the period of millennium 30 to 31, human society had reached a state of pitiful decay after cannibalizing itself for millennia. The Eldar had also reached the peak of their social decay, and so heralded the agonizing birth of the Chaos god Slaanesh, who would consume the majority of their population in one cataclysmic event that brought Eldar society to the brink of extinction. This horrific event, though, would have a positive outcome for mankind. It consumed all of that stored turbulent warp energy, so after thousands of years of instability, the warp returned to relative calm. Interstellar communication and travel would once again be possible for the civilization of mankind.
Damn, seriously, I love this Warhammer 40,000 so much, right? Because every time I think I know where this is going, I can see the trend. Apparently I'm wrong, because I did not see this Mad Max style thing coming. I knew humanity rose to a peak and fell down even in the previous videos that I react to, but I always thought that they fell down at certain level. They were still advanced modern civilization, but just not the way they used to be. Just war-bearing, I guess killing each other type of civilization. I did not know they went all the way to post-apocalyptic Mad Max style, very few people are alive type of scenario. So they literally reached the biggest peak there can be and fell down so bad that they nearly went extinct, all humans. Is that it? And from there, Emperor of Man is going to step in, I guess. Now he's going to step in. Why didn't he step in sooner? Right? I mean, did he need it, this state? I guess everybody is in ruins, basically. Most people are dead. So the Emperor of Man can just swoop in and, become the, I guess, hero or something. Because Terra is basically Mad Max scenario, right? Terra is definitely that at that point. Now they're basically going to slowly, build up, and Emperor of Man is gonna come, gonna introduce himself, and psychers will become a thing. I don't know. First of all, how does it become emperor? Like how Napoleon did, I guess, by force or something. I don't know, because I'm pretty sure he's not gonna go, I'm the god, worship me, because he doesn't like that shit, right? That happened very later on, after Horus Heresy and things like that. So yeah. You know what, this chapter 6 is pretty damn long, and we are already 20 minutes in, so I'm gonna pick that up tomorrow. This was just one video, the Age of Strife, which I knew nothing of, but it was so damn interesting, the turns it took. But yeah, apparently Slaanesh's creation was a major factor into why humanity fell. It's not just the war with AI, even though that started it. It's creation of... So Eldars basically fucked humans up. That's what the thing is. Eldar and their fucked up imagination also fucked up the humans in the process. So yeah. Right, if you like my Rickson, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the Rickson, there's a link in the description, check out the cast of Blizzard and yeah, I'll see you next time.